Hello, everyone. This is your host, Irsa Khalid, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Conversation with the Diplomat by DiploTV. My dear fellows, the oldest surviving diplomatic correspondence in the world is not found in Greece, Rome, or China. It comes from a cache of clay tablets discovered in Egypt known as Amarna letters. Written more than 3,300 years ago, these letters revealed rulers negotiating alliances, requesting assistance, exchanging gifts, and managing disputes across kingdoms stretching from Mesopotamia to the Mediterranean. What is remarkable is not how different diplomacy was then, but how familiar it feels. The tools have changed, the technology has changed, but the challenges of communication, trust, influence, and leadership remain strikingly similar. Thousands of years later, diplomacy continues to be shaped by individuals navigating those same complexities. So let's explore the journeys of one of the individuals who practice it. I'm honored to introduce His Excellency Syed Haider Ali Shah, Ambassador of Pakistan to Netherlands. Greetings to you, Your Excellency. We are honored to have you on this program, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you for this initiative, for reaching out and giving me this opportunity to have a conversation with you. Thank you.
Viewers, let me tell you more about our esteemed guest. Our guest is the Ambassador of Pakistan to the Netherlands since March 2025 and permanent representative of Pakistan to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons in The Hague. A distinguished career diplomat, he previously served as Additional Secretary for the United Nations and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation at Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He has also served as Pakistan's ambassador to Nepal and as acting High Commissioner in New Delhi. His distinguished career has included significant work on the United Nations affairs, legal and counterterrorism issues, and developments relating to Afghanistan and South Asia. He also served as a legal officer at the United Nations Counterterrorism Committee Executive Directorate in New York. Ambassador Shah holds an LLM from Harvard Law School, an LLB from Khyber Law College, University of Peshawar, and a postgraduate diploma in international law from the Institute of Social Studies, The Hague. Mr. Heather, welcome to Diplo TV. It's a pleasure to have you on with us. My first question to you is like, there's always more to a person than their title. Before you dive into your career and talk about that, please tell us about your personal journey and where did it all start?
Uh, Thank you, Irsa. um, I would say that I grew up in a military family. My father was in army, so I grew up all over Pakistan. I did my matriculation from Quetta, did my FSc from Murray, and bachelor's from Syed College, Rawalpindi, and then LLB, and then abroad for a master's and postgraduate diploma. Um, yeah, so that's it. Uh, I'm married. I have three children. They are studying in different stages. And now it's like we were once students. Now our children are students and they are pursuing their careers. Diplomacy and foreign service has been a career for more than 30 years now. And so far, so good.
So you wanted to be a lawyer and you have studied, that in that particular field. Then why did you join diplomacy?
Um, I would say that I can't say that I was looking forward to a career in diplomacy when I was a kid. I didn't even know about that. The only thing I knew about diplomacy was that in stories there was a person called Elchi who would go and from king and to another country, and so those stories. And I didn't know that it was a career at that time, and who those people were and how they acted. So there was little prospect for me to kind of imagine and to think about joining that career. Um, It was later in the life when we were studying for bachelor's in Sir Syed College in 1988-89. Then, when we were studying about political science and the structure of government and the different services which are part of government, and there we studied about foreign service as one of the key services. That was the time that I realized that I needed that this is the career that I would like to pursue. It was in 1988-89 that I came up with this idea, and then it took a struggle of several years before it actually materialized.
Let's talk about that struggle. What happened during those years?
Yeah, actually, at that time, we didn't have as much flow of information as you would have now. To get the basics was not that easy. For instance, I would tell you that I never had the good fortune of meeting anyone from the Foreign Service who was serving in the Foreign Service or who had served in the Foreign Service until I joined the Foreign Service. So let alone sharing their experiences or kind of learning from their experiences or kind of having a kind of dialogue and to find out the do's and don'ts and how to go about it. So there we operated in a relatively, I would say, a blank of information. The information was available, but it was very difficult to get that. And you didn't know where to start, how to begin. Now, I mean, you go on Google and you just search and everything is there at your fingertips. So at that time it was difficult. To come to realize how to go about it, then we realized that they used to say there is a exam which is they say मुकाबले का इम्तिहान. So we didn't even know what was that. So the CSS, the comparative exam, and how to be eligible for that. And there are so many kind of misinformation, so many kind of anecdotal stories, not much reliable, and the requirements about the papers and the exams and how to prepare for it, what strategies to have, when to take the exam, how to kind of register for the exam once you are close to that. So it's a long struggle. And then at that time, English used to be a big barrier for people because it was and I think most of the students who couldn't kind of make the final cut was probably because of the proficiency in English. So it was a big kind of obstacle at that time. I think the situation has changed considerably since then. The fluency and proficiency in English is no longer an issue for our younger generation as it was at that time. But then there is a reverse, I think, issue for you, for the new students, and that is because there is so much information available that you have to compete at a different field, a different level. Now it's not about the basic information, it's about the quality of information. And it's also more about your articulation, your analysis, and the quality of your analysis. Because it's a competitive examination. It's a process where the toughness of the exam is determined by the supply and demand. So it's not I would say the nature of the job which makes the competition difficult. It is the supply and demand component of it that makes it difficult. Since there are fewer posts, the posts have remained the same. It's static since the 90s when we took the exam until now. And the pool of applicants has increased, so the competition has increased. So when you are now strategizing to get into that competitive process, you have to be aware of it, that the facilities that you have, many other students share the same. So they also have that background, they also have that kind of facility. So in a competition, you don't just have to run, you have to win. You may cross the finishing line, but it matters when you finish the line, and how you compare with your competitors.
Right. So, what did work for you at that point of time? As you have mentioned that there were not much sources readily available. Getting information about the exam itself was a big issue. So, how did you navigate your way? And tell us any anecdote of that time when you were struggling and not in this position as you are today. So share us with that. Share something about that time with us.
I think, to be honest, and I've shared this with others also. I think it's a you have to prepare hard for it. You have to work hard, but at the same time, since it's a competitive process, and since the positions are few and there are many people, not making the final cut does not make that you are not capable. I think there are many people who are capable, but since you have to decide on a few, so a few would be selected, and there are different criteria for selection. So it's one should not lose heart because if you cannot make it, it's I think there are other professions also, and I think one should keep a positive outlook on that. In my case, there was a lot of uncertainty. Because there is this view at that time that it is very difficult, that it's almost impossible to do it, and so many
That
different.
view still exists. That view is still intact.
Yes, you see, and there were moments when you had this doubt that whether I will be able to do it. They sound, and when, for instance, when I was when everything happened and I reached the interview stage. So we had like at that time, I don't know what the structure right now, but at that time we used to have group discussions. So we were about eight people, and it seemed that everyone was more qualified than myself. Everyone, they were gold medalists. They had studied abroad. They had something to their credit, and I thought, oh my God, I've nothing to kind of. To show compared with these people, and how would I kind of get through, but it's there are things you have to have faith, and not lose faith because of these. I think if you are sincere to your purpose, what you want to do, I think that is the most important thing. And I think at different levels. One, if you achieve your goal, good enough. The second is, I think probably more important is that even if you don't get exactly where you wanted to, the fact that you had tried, and the fact that you had made your effort would give you a kind of inner satisfaction that I did whatever I could in the given circumstances. So if you feel that you had been not doing enough, probably that would probably would rankle in your heart all your life, that you probably didn't do it. So I think the best thing is do your best, and then when as Muslims we say that leave something to Allah also. Just kind of don't worry about, fret too much about the consequences. I think sometimes the journey is more meaningful. It's more kind of exciting, and I think the destination often is not kind of as exciting as the journey itself. So I think appreciate and love that process, that feeling of being in that kind of the excitement. Enjoy that, relish that. I think that should be the spirit, because all your life you would always have these goals in these destinations, and when you reach one, you realize that that was not the end of it. There is another destination further down the road. So you have to go up and up and up. And so it's a never-ending process. This is life. So it is not about just one. At this stage, for instance, for students, for this, when they are young in college and university, getting into the foreign service probably, or getting into a profession, maybe the end goal. But that's the beginning. it's like it's the start, it's the kind of commencement, and you have a long way afterwards. So don't burn out yourself. Prepare for the long marathon.
Yeah, absolutely right. And one thing that is important to note, as you have just mentioned, that it's just more about the journey. At least you have tried, at least you have given your blood and sweat, and you should be satisfied with that fact that you gave your 100%. And then the outcome is, not in your hands. So, speaking of being in this field, and when you finally became a diplomat, um, what were the early struggles, I would say, and how did you tackle them? What did you follow? What was your principles? What principles you developed in the beginning of your career? So tell us about that phase.
I think so. I'll now give you the kind of my experience of once you reach the
Yeah,
stage when you have the D-Day has arrived and you have made it, right. So it's very exciting. You come to. I think because you create so much hype, there is bound to be some reality check. Um, uh, when you get down to the basics of it, when you start working, then you realize that it is a job. It's basically a job. It's a kind of a duty. I mean, office hours. I mean, you have a desk. You have a bureau. You have files. So it's not as exhilarating as probably you had been imagining, as it is presented in movies or kind of in show in the media. So it's a very kind of I would say sobering experience in that sense. It's not as kind of excitable or exciting kind of thing. And so you have to absorb that. You have to internalize that it's not that kind of a thing. It's you have to work. Still, you have to work. You have bosses to answer to. You have exams to clear. So it's a
more.
lot. Yeah, more exams. Yeah, and more,
Yeah.
and you are constantly evaluated. Your bosses are writing reports now about you, your performance. You are being watched in that sense that you how you comport yourself, your behavior, your attitude at work, towards your colleagues. All these things are kind of being factored in there. So it's so you are kind of so it's a different so being a freelancer, you so that I mean it's a new environment. You have to condition yourself to that. So it's a different kind, and you have to kind of work, and you have to keep pace with your colleagues, which is sometimes very motivating because you get to see your colleagues, your seniors, who have kind of attained a mark, who are known in the service, who have a reputation. If you get to work with them, you feel very kind of elevated also. But there are demands, constant demands. So you have to kind of and you learn from them, and then you realize that you were a greenhorn when you kind of joined. You might have been a very kind of a brilliant student, but when you come here, you start from a scratch. So there is a lot of learning. You know that, for instance, you're the official writing is, for instance, the documents, the letter correspondence is an altogether different kind of style. The how you write briefs, how you write the other documents, it's a different style. There's a different formality. There's a different rigor to it. There are different protocols. You have to follow them. You have to unlearn many things. You have to learn many things. The way you dress up, for instance, has changed. You are told, like in the academies also, that you are now government servants. You have to act and behave in a certain way. So there is a lot of kind of a learning. So you start as if you are starting a kindergarten once again. So it's a new kind of a, so and you are the bottom of that. So you are the chota. Huh? You start you start from that level. So which is exciting, but at the same time it can be
I
overwhelming. Yeah.
an
So
eye-opening situation as well, because outside this life we are just fascinating, and we are just having this view that it's really fascinating, and there will be all there will be you will be you're moving from one country to another country and all these things in our heads.
But at the same time, I think what you said about how you cope with that. I think in my experience, you learn a lot from your colleagues. I learned a lot from the staff. Because they were no more knowledgeable than I was. Even now, for instance, the people dealing with accounts, the office affairs, they are more knowledgeable. I learned many things from my staff about file keeping, for instance, how files are numbered, how files are sorted out. So the basic things, how they kind of diary correspondence. I basically learned the computer programs. When I went to office at that time, they were using Excel. No, not Excel, WordPerfect. So there was no Word at that time. So the Windows, so they were using these kind of WordPerfect programs. Not my MS Word was not available in many offices. So my staff was very proficient, and they knew how to do it. And I had to kind of sit with them, and I said, "No, give me all the commands. I want to learn." So I asked them to print for me all the different commands, the shortcuts, the keyboard shortcuts, so that I could learn. So you had to do that. Then you learned from colleagues how to go about your work, how to carry out the instructions that have been given to you, how to organize yourself. And then we also learned the drafting, the basic drafting. We were corrected. I think there's a lot of hand holding at that stage. Sometimes kindly, sometimes a bit unkindly, but and you have to kind of it's like a new kind of I would say professional training that it's an on job.
Yeah.
So it's not all glamorous. So there's a lot of, I would say, basic, fundamental, I would say, learning also that because it's a new profession, you have not been part of it. You have never been there. So you have to start from scratch. So you do bring some kind of basic knowledge, but that can also be sometimes problematic because unlearning is easier said than done, and you persist in what you have learned before. So you have to struggle with that to unlearn that and to learn something new.
So it's also you should have this trait in you that you are ready to unlearn most of the things if they do not work anymore in a certain profession, in a certain field. So I would, as you have mentioned about technology, and right now we are in that age that AI has changed almost everything, artificial intelligence. How do you view AI? What are your thoughts about it? How do you perceive it? I want your perspective on that.
I think the most important thing is that uh, uh, technology is best when it is used to assist us rather than we being used by technology. And the second thing is the same ethical codes that apply to our other activities also apply to new technologies and how they are to be used. So if it is used to assist, to facilitate, I think that should be welcomed. I think we should learn. We cannot resist technology, but at the same time, if you were to use technology in an unethical manner, for instance, if you were to command ChatGPT or some other kind of application to produce something, and then you would kind of try to pretend as if you produced this, that is unethical. That is basically trying to either suppress information or you are trying to dissimulate. So it's unethical. I think you are making people believe that you this is you, but when it's not you. So I think the same goes for technology. I think you cannot and you should not resist it, that the use of technology. I think rather than resisting it and delaying the integration of technology, we should facilitate that But at the same time, we need to have guardrails. We need to have these protective kind of mechanisms to ensure that the use of technology is subservient to human needs and our values. You don't use it to harm others. You don't use it to deceive others. You don't use it to kind of violate. So otherwise, it's phenomenal. I think it's so. I mean, why shouldn't I use it? For instance, we now use word processing, which gives you so much, I would say, agility and facility in terms of writing it. I mean, you can delete, you can change, you can modify, you can move paragraphs, lines, sentences, you can plug in, plug out things, which with a handwritten kind of text you couldn't do that. You if you were to scratch, you would have to kind of erase it, or you would to kind of use some fluid. It was so difficult. So technology is there, and there are many usages that you have to use. It can scan data much more quickly for you. It can kind of synthesize things for you. But the only thing is that use it responsibly, use it ethically, and use it in I would say in service of humanity, rather than in a way which would be unlawful or unethical.
Did you get a chance to use any tool, or you have, tried it for once for any task, for your any personal task? Maybe you can share.
Yeah. I was surprised. I didn't know about it. For instance,
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of log my different activities, for instance, and I'd been thinking about it for years, and I couldn't come up with something. So once I mean, I was recently, I mean, a few months ago, I was on ChatGPT, and I asked it whether you could create for me an Excel sheet with my different activities. For instance, when I'm reading, I want to log in other different activities that I'm doing. So can you help me how to do it? Yeah. So there was I mean, a response that yes, we can do it. You can do this. And I said, and I was probably being more lazy, and I said, well, can you create a document for me? And
It
voila,
did.
it
Yeah.
created a document for me. Yeah, so it was fascinating. I think otherwise I would have struggled to do that, and it was for stuck. It was stuck for years for me, and then by single kind of command, it happened.
And AI do work for us, especially in the repetitive tasks, the tasks which can be done by which consumes more time and energy rather than the outcome is not as much effective, or so it is really helpful in doing repetitive tasks, especially. So I think so. It's of great help, uh, as you have just mentioned about that sheet. So, speaking of back to your life, as ambassadors have to move from one country to another country after a few years, and everything gets changed, especially when you have a family, your children do get affected, and your life goes upside down, I would say, because knowing new country, trying to fit into the new environment, uh, in every manner. So how do you take it? Do you enjoy it, or do you think that it's a sacrifice which you have to give in this profession? What are your thoughts about it?
Well, for me, I'm fortunate that I got into the Foreign Service as my first choice. So this was the reason why I took the exam. This was the purpose, the main purpose. And there were few people who were lucky enough, like myself, who got their first choice. So I'm very thankful to Allah for that. This is the choice. This is the life I chose for myself. Having said that, there are challenges when you're moving to other countries. But at the same time, the advantage is that in the foreign service, you have a structure, you have a mechanism, a support system which helps you. So when you're moving with the transportation, everything, so the entire system is there. Of course, it's still a hassle, but there are protocols, there are kind of systems in place which help make this transition smooth. So there are colleagues there in the mission when you're going where you're going, who would kind of help you with the children's admission to different schools, who would help you locate or line up a few kind of apartments or housing options for you. There would be someone who would be ready with the medical insurance documents, things like that. So it's not that you are kind of so there is some kind of support, which is, I would say, a great help in that. Now, the other part of it is when you're moving. So everything changes. Sometimes it can be frustrating. I mean, starting from scratch once again, getting your stuff may not have arrived. You have reached there, so it would take about a year, or kind of a month or 2 months, and then by before another month before you can all have it unpacked. The banking issues now, they're taking much more time. The cultural impact of it, and I think an increasingly important issue is for children's adjustment to the new environment. So you are less worried about yourself, but more about the children and family, how they're coping with that, how they are finding the new schools, the new kind of environments, how they're coping with that. So it's a kind of an emotional kind of a situation that you have to deal with.
They have to leave their friends behind and all.
Yes, yes. Sometimes it's like they are uprooted from wherever they had kind of rooted themselves. So their friends are a lot. The good thing is that now with these social media kind of platforms, they remain in touch with their friends and colleagues. So they are spread across the world now. So it's much easier for them to be in touch. We used to, when we moved from one place to another, we often lost most of our friends. Because the only way we could stay in touch was through letters, and many of them were not good at writing letters, so they would not. I mean, so your friendship would fade away after a few exchanges, or even before that. Now it's easier. In our from our professional point of view, when you're moving out, of course there's an adjustment that we have to make. The social circle that we are moving in, that changes, so you have to have a new kind of environment, so that is different. There are different kind of diplomatic circles that you're now working with. The host authorities are different, and the language can be sometimes an issue. So all those factors are there, but there is also something, I would say, very exciting also about it. Something new that you can learn. It's a new place. The weather is different. The people are different. For instance, the language is different. The culture is different. So you may look at it kind of in a more observant way. You might find it kind of more exciting, that the exoticness of it would not kind of repel you, rather it would attract you. So it can be a lot of excitement, and you can learn about the history, the culture of those people, and you can make comparisons how they go about their lives, how similar they are to you, how unsimilar they are. So there is that adjustment professionally at a personal level. There are opportunities to learn, but the sheer fact that you have moved to a new culture, you are now moving about in a different circle, and you pick up different cues, social cues, and so the sights and sounds, and the experience, the rich history, everything. And then the interesting thing is, when you go abroad, when you go into a new culture, it helps you look back at your own culture in a new way, and then you realize many of the things that you had taken for granted, and then you are looking at your own culture, your own society with new eyes. So that's very fascinating. So the learning is not just when you go abroad. When you come back, you have different filters, you have different lenses now. So you can appreciate. So that's why the travel used to be encouraged in Islam, also in previous culture. It was hazardous also. It was kind of difficult, but at the same time, and when you are living in another society, that gives you even a richer experience.
And travel do broaden your horizon. When you are traveling, you are meeting new people, you are experiencing their life, how do they live, what is their culture, and it's all fascinating, interesting, and you get more informed and knowledgeable about different cultures. Okay, as you have mentioned that you do compare the culture and the society with your own home country. What is it which you miss more about Pakistan when you are abroad and not here? Is it food? Is it something special, any occasion, or what it is?
I think two occasions I miss the most. One Ramadan.
Oh,
So it's a very different feeling in Pakistan. So you kind of really enjoy it there. And the fact that everyone is fasting, and they are observing it in a certain way. So we have a particular kind of way of doing it. So you miss that because you go to the market, for instance, the bazaars, everything. I mean, it changes. I mean, even before, I mean, weeks before Ramadan kicks in, it's
preparation.
preparations are there, and then for Eid there is this like I think it's now even after the 10th of Ramadan the Eid preparations start.
Yeah,
So on the television, on social media, or everywhere, you have that kind of hype created. So it's like it's the Eid day is one, but you prepare for it, you anticipate it so much. It's just like it's a new excitement, and I think I feel that the children miss it because that kind of feeling. They're kind of cousins in Pakistan. They get to have the full impact and feel of
so,
the
yeah.
yeah, and so the Ramadan and Eid, they are these two occasions when I really feel that it would have been better to be in Pakistan.
Yeah, and recently we have celebrated Eid al-Adha, and
Yeah.
the we gave sacrificed goats, and there's always meat. All the dishes involve meat, and we try. Families do gather together, and they do cook together. They do barbecue, and all this environment. It feels surreal. And
Yeah,
every year we have the same enthusiasm on these occasions.
yeah,
Uh,
and it's a cultural event. It's a
yeah, it is a
entire
culture.
society. Yeah, it's a family event. You celebrate it at a large scale. The whole everyone is doing that. Over here,
And
we have to struggle to keep to. Usually, what happens is that the children have their school day at that day, so they're
oh
not
yes.
off. So we would typically ask them to take a day off on Eid day, so that at least they have some sense that it is important enough, and they have to celebrate it.
Okay, so tell us about your hobbies. Your favorite movie, maybe any book which you read, which you're reading right now, or your all-time favorite book. Anything?
Yeah, I'm very much into reading, and I've picked up in the last decade or so more because as you move up, you also get into more and more supervisory role and more managerial roles. So the basic kind of the I would say the spade work is done more and more by your colleagues, younger colleagues. So you have more time to read and to analyze. I think this is also one of the privileges, I think, to be able to read, and I'm very fond of history and political science, almost anything. It's and I think there are some colleagues in the service who have been an inspiration for me, who have been like you can say probably as like bookworms. Getting sharing notes with them how to go about it. I think they're fascinating books on different topics. For instance, I recently started reading Alistair Lamb's The Incomplete Partition, and the level of detail that it has on those episodes at that time in 1946, 47 is kind of eye-opening. We think about all those things, but the way it has been documented is real quite fascinating. Fukuyama, I think his books are the on political order and political decay. They are fascinating. I think I would recommend to anyone who can read them. Apart from that, I mean, the history is about China, about subcontinent, the Ibn Khaldun. So anything. I think I think this is probably one of the most positive aspects of the Foreign Service, that it allows you to learn so much. I was
To
fortunate
know about the world.
and about yourself. I mean, I think it's what I mean. You learn about the world through your eyes, through your own yourself. So it's your subjective understanding of the world through. So whoever you are, your absorption capacity is a factor of who you are. So the more you read, the more you analyze, the more you interact with people, the more you go out, the more you experience, observe things, the richer your perspectives are, and you realize that as truth and reality is not singular, it is layered, and it's not that only one thing is right. There are so many different aspects of it. It's fascinating, and I think in history, the more you read history, you realize how interconnected history is, and how, for instance, we tend to read history linearly. I mean, like in a linear fashion, as if it were one event and it happened. Okay, this thing happened, but we don't realize how it impacted the other events and other developments, and how they were kind of impacted by these. So it's really kind of humbling, I would say, to realize there's so much out there to learn, and we know so little out of this.
Yeah, this is the feeling perhaps which you get when you try to dig in, and if when you are reading, you do have this realization that I don't know much, and there's a lot to learn about this world. Or and there are many niches. We are just talking about one, and in that one niche, we are reading one or two or three or maybe 10 particular books. So this is how it happens. Um, you have been in this field for years now, and you joined it by your own choice. In your opinion, what is the definition of a good diplomat? What there? Just give me what is one quality that should be in a diplomat, and that is non-negotiable.
I think the first, I think yeah, that's a good point that you raised. There are many qualities that you need to have.
Yeah.
But I think the one quality that probably is not appreciated as much as it should, and which you also referred in your initial, you used a word when you started off this program, and that was trust. And I think we discount how important this is. I think it's very, very important. I think because many of the functions that diplomats perform, they can be franchised out to technologies or other means. But one thing that is irreplaceable, which is indispensable, I think, is the human touch and the human contact. And the human contact would be meaningless if it is devoid of trust. To develop that kind of trust, I think there is an institutional mechanism to foster relationships. We cultivate friends. We go out. This is our job, because we are there in a new location for only 3 to 4 years, sometimes even less. So we have to go out. I mean, we have to proactively cultivate. We have to have our visiting cards. We reach out to people. We broach discussions. We make friends. How do you do that? I mean, you do it through your personal appeal also. But at the same time, you also make that other person, you invite them to your home. You share a meal with them. You go to their homes. You go to their functions, their events. They come to your events. You have conversations. You have discussions. They share with you things in confidence. For instance, they trust on you. And you also reciprocate. You also kind of respond to them. So it's very, very important. I think one of the basic requirements, I would think a good diplomat, I think in multilateral negotiations, in bilateral negotiations, the quality of trust that you build with your interlocutors, with your hosts, with your colleagues, with your counterparts. That's I think crucial, and it goes a long, long, long way in furthering your diplomatic objectives, because if they can trust me, they can trust what I'm saying, right?
Exactly.
So, and I can trust them. So it makes it so much easier, so much easier. So that personal touch is, and it is, and then you realize that it is for a purpose that the government is spending so much money, so much resources to deploy these diplomats in the field, far away from home, at an exorbitant cost for the exchequer, and every country does it. And I think if it weren't for this kind of personal contribution, and if you didn't have the trust, if you were to put them off, if you were to kind of make them angry, if you were to kind of annoy them, I mean that's not the purpose. The purpose is, if so we are also called the first line of defense. So we go far into that. So, for instance, I was posted in India. I mean, that was a kind of a
Yeah,
really, really, I would say, professionally rewarding, at the same time challenging experience. But interacting with those with people there, with your counterparts, with the society, you let them have a kind of a peek at the society that you represent. You share, you embody the values that your society represents. So they see you as a kind of an icon, as a kind of a symbol of that society. And if you can convince them that you are trustworthy, that you are who you are, I think you have done your job, and I think that's important. I mean, it's not easy sometimes, but I think you can do at a personal level. I think at least they would appreciate. We may have differences. It's not that you kind of win over people and they're starting, I mean, singing, I mean, praises of you. No, it's not about that. It's about appreciating who you are and appreciating another person. I mean, it's about agreeing to disagree, but to have a kind of a civilized conversation, to express them your point of view. We for instance, I have heard from colleagues about their kind of national issues in a way that I cannot kind of glean from books. And I have been able to convey to colleagues around the world in my 30 plus years of service, in a conversational style, about different issues, about our territorial issues, our political kind of objectives, or kind of why we have a particular kind of what is our position on a particular issue at the UN, for instance. You can explain that in a much better. They would at least appreciate why you are having that position.
right. You have given, short course, I would say, on what is the crux of basically being a diplomat and what you're supposed to do when you are posted in the other country. Uh, that was, really insightful. Um, what message would you like to give to people like me who look up to people like you, and also for our platform, this DiploTV?
Thank you for asking me this. First thing I would say that cherish your dreams. If you have a dream, don't give up, right? The dream has to be reasonable. It has to be pragmatic. I mean, it has to be kind of human. It has to be kind of within those pragmatic bounds. So if you have a dream, don't give up. Try to figure out how to go about reaching that dream, and make effort for that. You see, your ability to achieve your dream is contingent, among other things, on the sincerity and the level of your commitment. And I tell this to everyone, that this sincerity and commitment is personal to you. You don't have to declare it. You don't have to convince me or others that you are sincere. No, it's a purely internal, private matter for you. If you are sincere deep down, I mean, and what is the proof of sincerity? The proof of sincerity is that you think about it and it does not let you sleep. The proof of sincerity is that you are willing to prioritize it. The proof of sincerity is that you are willing to give up your kind of pleasure, your comfort for the attainment of this objective. The proof of sincerity is that when you have a choice to make, you would choose it. So if you're not doing this, rethink whether you are sincere or not. You don't have to show it to anyone. It's up to you. It's your personal thing. It's deep down. So if you are committed to doing these things, I think the sheer satisfaction that you derive out of it would be sufficient for you to kind of sustain you, to keep you happy and contented, even if you didn't succeed. When I was doing the CSS exam, many years before I took the exam, I had one goal. And that goal was not even to get into the foreign service. I had made a commitment to myself that would uh, I would prove to myself, I want to prove to myself that I can pass this exam. And I wasn't even looking after the next stage, the interview and final allocation. I was okay. I mean, if I got into foreign service, okay, this was my first choice. It was okay. But I think my dream was to pass the exam, and this was the dream. The rest was kind of, you can say, the benefits out of it. So I had to prove to myself, and then it happened. So I think luck is also there. But then, as Paulo Coelho says, that when you determine something, that all the universe conspires to help it happen. So,
Yeah.
so it's like this. There's another saying that God is with the bigger battalion. So when you're working, when you're putting in things, things would happen also. And even if they were not to happen exactly the same way as you had wanted, it would still be something which would be, I think, desirable. It would not be. I mean, probably I think you need to also make adjustments. You also, I think, and another thing, I think, which the message I think is for everyone. I think, especially the people who younger people, resilience. Now, you have heard this word so many times, but what does this mean? Now, it's easier said than done. Again, resilience is coping with both success and failure. It's not just failure, but also with success. Don't, when you succeed, don't let it go to your head. Remain humble. Uh, don't forget what your objectives were. Have they been achieved? Have you done all that you were required to do? As I told you, that when you reach a certain goal, you realize that there were further goals down the road or up the road. Um, and when you have a setback, when things are not happening the way you are trying to do, uh, that's when you have to bring in this grit, this courage, this ability to get up again on your feet. That is resilience, not giving up. I think it's very, very important. I think, and the question of sincerity comes in here also. How deeply committed were you? You don't have to show it to anyone, but how deeply committed were you? Were you just one failure away from kind of giving up? Were you so weak as to just kind of be dissuaded by the first failure that you had, to kind of lose faith in yourself? Don't lose faith in yourself. I think if you have that faith, if you have that commitment, it's not about persisting mindlessly. I know I would not say that. I think the important thing is that when you have a failure, when things are not working out, reflect, pause, think, look around, observe, see what is it that needs to change. Probably your strategy is wrong. Probably there's something that you need to do differently. Something, And if you make adjustments, if you can adapt yourself to that requirement, look for other people who succeed. What is it that makes them successful? Don't simply feel envious about them. Just try to see the mechanics which help them. I mean, and learn from them. And see, human society is filled with examples where societies have learned from one another. Everything has been kind of cross-pollinated. It's like a cross-fertilization of ideas. So we also have to learn. Don't be shy about that. Learn from others. There's no kind of I would say shame in learning from others. Maybe others have done it. They have learned it better. So no harm in learning. So learn from the others. Be humble, be flexible, be resolute, be resilient, be sincere and committed. A long answer to your question.
No, it was very wholesome, I must say. And you gave the formula basically of how to succeed it or how to go through it, at least. So it was a wonderful, wonderful, I would say, conversation, a very candid one. Thank you so much for your time.